Hello and welcome to Anxiety Hacks. I'm your host, Kate Hudson-Hall, and it's fantastic to have you here. Now, this is a platform for people to share relatable, uplifting, and inspiring conversations based on anxiety. And in each episode, we will be chatting with people who have struggled with anxiety and then also learning from them and what has helped them to move forward from their anxiety, to take back control of their life. And then we'll also be talking to professionals who work with people with anxiety to provide tools to calm their debilitating, painful anxiety. Now, as a therapist, as an anxiety therapist, I have written a book. Now, my book is to help you break through your anxiety behaviors with many different powerful ways to do this. Now, the book is called Anxiety Hacks with proven techniques, tools, and tips to calmness that I have taught to, thousands of my clients. And so what you're going to learn in the book is you're going to learn how to begin to break through those difficult behaviors to instantly calm yourself. And some of the techniques, you can do that in less than 90 seconds. Oh, fantastic. And you're also going to learn the globally recognized and proven super successful calm your alarm technique. Oh yes, this is a great tool to be able to instantly reduce that anxiety and get you into a much calmer place. Now, also in the book, I have a free companion course, and the course contains downloadable worksheets and bonus videos of me demonstrating each powerful strategy revealed throughout the book. So it's me kind of holding your hand through each of the techniques. So if you'd like to find out more about my book, if you zip on to Amazon, it's on there. So if you put in Anxiety Hacks and my name, it'll pop up, and then you can find out more information. Now, we have a very, very special guest joining us today. Now, our guest is Leslie Davis, and she is always on a journey. Her motto is, why not? She measures things she wants to do against the yardstick of, when I'm 80 years old, I don't want to be sitting in my rocking chair on my front porch saying, I wish I would have done that. I love that. So Leslie is also an author of 4 books. One of her books is called You Can't Eat Love: How Learning to Love Yourself Can Change Your Relationship with Food. Leslie wrote this self-help book because she'd been there, so she knows all about it. And she teaches how she learned to love herself, to change her relationship with food and lose almost 100 pounds. But this is not another diet book. This is a book about love, because weight has always been an issue that she's fought most of her life. Until Leslie started paying attention to how she was feeling and what might be triggering the feelings, she didn't realize how often anxiety was controlling her life. And once she started to recognize these signs, listening to herself and adding in tips and tricks, all of this helped to calm the anxiety. Even though it's not gone away completely, it is simply no longer in control of her. So she's here to share her journey and her lessons learned. So we want to hear all about this. Leslie, welcome.
Oh, Kate, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. I cannot wait to read the book.
Oh, yes, great. So we're excited to have you join us, Leslie. We want to hear about your journey and how anxiety fitted into your journey. and then what what you took away from that, what you've learned, and what tools and tips have helped you to be able to take back control of your anxiety.
Well, when I started on the journey of learning to love myself and trying to shed the weight, I started realizing how often feelings were coming into play with regard to that crazy hunt that you can go on. How many times have you experienced something or somebody says something and you decide that you've got to have something in the pantry, the freezer, the refrigerator? And that was when I started paying attention and started asking myself one question that really helped me to see what was happening. And that question was, what's really going on right now?
Yeah, absolutely. Because before you know it, you've got your head in the fridge eating that last piece of chocolate cake or whatever it might be, even though you're not hungry for it. It all comes
100%.
back to your feelings. What were you thinking? What was going on that caused you to fall into that pattern, habit, which so many people are, and reach out for food?
And it is a habit. It is a habit. But it's a habit, that's learned way back. And that was the thing that I found so interesting. It was a habit that was learned way back when I was young. And here I am, many, many decades later, and it's still there.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I started realizing is I could feel the anxiety starting to rise, and I didn't like the feeling. So I would try to do something to take
Calm
the
yourself.
feeling down. And what I would catch myself doing is going into the pantry looking for something. And as I started asking myself the question, but not just asking the question, listening to the answer.
Yeah.
As I would,
I say to my clients, I call it the cookie question. So I know I'm not hungry for this food. So what feelings am I trying to change? And like you say, that's right, listening in to, what your thoughts are that are connected to your feelings.
and oftentimes, I will admit, oftentimes the answer is not an answer that you would want to discuss in polite company.
Absolutely.
Because what I discovered is I was squashing down feelings about my true feelings about how I felt about a situation or a person. And the conflict of what I really wanted to do and how I was really feeling, coupled with what I believed I should be doing, what I believed I should be feeling, was triggering that anxiety. But also, the other thing that I started realizing is anticipation. Anticipation of an event or talking to a person or seeing a person or
Yeah.
going somewhere was setting off huge amounts of anxiety.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then going back and asking that question and then listening to why am I feeling so anxious about this?
Yeah.
Okay, this is what's really going on. Okay, so how can I take care of myself in this moment? And um, taking that moment and learning to take just a deep breath and then not running from what I was really feeling could calm that anxiety. Now, I'm not saying it would go away totally, but it would calm down where I could move forward in a more logical fashion.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think I say to my clients that have anxiety, quite often you'll find that if you think back to before the anxiety really began to rise, what were you thinking? What thoughts were running through your mind? And quite often it's a pattern of you having an argument with yourself in your head, or you belittling yourself in your head and telling yourself, oh, you're no good in some way. But if you actually tune in to what you're thinking before that anxiety rises, you'll become aware of those negative thoughts that jump in, and they're with the 60,000 different thoughts that we have, that run throughout our mind every day. You know, they're back and forth and all over the place, and there's some in the background, some in the forefront, and we don't hear half of them, but they're there, bumbling along. And for a majority of people, particularly with anxiety, they're negative.
And that's what I call, the hamsters on wheels, because those thoughts live in our mind. And as you said, some of them are in the background, some of them are in the foreground, some of them are just sitting there waiting to be set off. And as I started recognizing what the thoughts were, I was able to start doing some reframing. So that became part of my calming myself down, was reframing that thought. But here's something that I discovered, and I found it to be really, really interesting. A lot of my anxiety was set off because of some trigger that was related to something in the past. And I came to understand that the trigger from something in the past, I felt as if it was now.
Yes. So have you got an example, something that had happened in the past for people to relate to?
Well, one example that I have that sets me off quite often is going into a new place, going someplace new, meeting new people. That sets off a lot of anxiety for me because we moved a lot when I was growing up. And so I was constantly thrown into situations where I didn't know anybody. I got lost several times trying to get from a place back to my house.
Right.
I was uncomfortable. And when I would try to share these feelings, with my mother, she would minimize them.
Yeah.
And tell me, I shouldn't feel that way. So I learned to be quiet about those kinds of things. But even now, decades later, and I have, a phone that can tell me exactly where I am and how to get to where it is I want to go, I still can feel that anxiety start to rise. So what I do now, since I understand it and I can pinpoint it, now I'll say, you know what? These are the things that you have at your disposal right now. You're uncomfortable going into that new situation, but you know what? You can simply say hello to somebody. You don't need to have another conversation if you choose not to. And you always have a way to get yourself back home.
Yes.
And so that'll calm it down. Now it'll stay bubbling at the surface, but I'll simply remind myself, this is what you can do. This is what you are in control of. And you do have a way to get back home.
So that's brilliant. Brilliant. So if somebody had when they were going, because I think that's quite common that when people go to new places, quite often that the anxiety can really explode. So what would you suggest to them that they should do? So to step aside, maybe, listen to their thoughts and reframe it by telling themselves that they're an adult and that they can move forward, they can achieve wherever they're going and be calm and relaxed. But it's giving them, there's many different ways you could do this, but giving yourself clear direction positively about how you can move forward in whatever you have to do.
Well, and reminding yourself that you are in control of the situation and that you have a way to get yourself back home or back to your place of safety. Because one of the things, I don't know about anybody else, I can speak for myself. One thing that I've discovered after, 2 years of shutdown, my anxiety will rise when I'm going not terribly, terribly far from my home.
Yeah,
it doesn't make any difference if I'm going someplace where I know people.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that is really common for people now. After 2 years of lockdown, every time, I have quite a few clients that every time they go outside, or they're thinking that they have, knowing that they have to go outside, they build it up in their mind with those feelings that come about the fear of going outside, because we haven't done that. We hadn't done it for a long time.
So I've had to practice this a whole lot, reminding myself I'm in control. I can get back to my home at any time that I choose to. I can make an excuse to leave whatever situation it is that I'm in, where if it gets to be too much. And giving myself permission while I am going to wherever it is that I'm going, giving myself permission to return home allows my anxiety to calm down enough that I'm able to enjoy myself in the moment wherever it is that I am, and not feel that fight or flight, running in my head and in my body. So that when I leave, I can say to myself, you know what, I'm really proud of you. You went, you enjoyed yourself. These were the things that you were excited about. And I will think about, all the things that I enjoyed while I'm driving back home. And what that's done for me is it's reinforced. I can leave. I am in control. So each time that I've gone wherever it is I'm going, it's a little bit easier to go. But the conversation that I have with myself on the return home, whether it's 5 minutes or 30 minutes or an hour, have really helped me, because I'm reinforcing what I did do that I was successful with, and not focusing on the things that I wasn't successful with. Because what I learned is we want to celebrate what we want to continue and ignore what we want to stop.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I love that. I love that. And I have found I've had anxiety, well, since the age of 5, and now I'm 105. I know I don't look quite that old, but I have found, so I've had it on and off throughout my life. So I had separation anxiety, and then when I was a teenager, when I had bulimia, I had huge anxiety then for years and years and years and years and years. And so over the years, with the different techniques and tools that I teach my clients and in my book, I have used over the years. So I have the tools. But as we were saying, after lockdown, when the gates were open and we were allowed out, I felt my anxiety rising also. And I was quite surprised, but I had the tools, and I have the tools to be able to calm myself and to be able to take back control and let the anxiety go. But, it's something that you need to work on. And throughout the podcast, we'll be talking about different ways. And that's the whole reason why I set up and wrote the book, to give people the tools to be able to do that.
Well, and the first thing that I learned that I needed to be able to do is to identify, am I feeling angry? Am I what exactly is it that I'm feeling? And so many times what I thought I was feeling wasn't really what I was feeling. What it was anxiety. And then it would go back, as you commented, you can recognize, your beginning of anxiety at 5 years old. I can recognize mine from, around that same time.
Yeah.
And so we keep getting transported back. And the more I acknowledge, well, of course you feel that way. Of course you're feeling anxious. This is what you're basing that emotion on. So what can we do right now to take care of ourselves? And, with the tips and the tricks, and also, the tools, having more tools in your toolbox gives you more options and opportunities to soothe and calm the anxiety. Now, I'm not saying it's going to go away, because for me, it doesn't go away. It's running, very, very low frequency, but it is no longer in control. And before, when it was in control, I would tear the pantry apart, finding something to eat to soothe it. Yes. And the truth of the matter is, it never soothed the anxiety. It fed the shame.
Yes.
And it escalated the anxiety.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, Leslie, going back to what you were saying earlier about being aware of those thoughts that you have, and for you, and then reframing them. So did you take some time to actually slow them right down and write them, actually physically write them down?
That is exactly what I did. That's exactly what I did. I started writing in a notebook. I would just, grab a pen and paper and start having a written conversation with myself. Because what I discovered was if I had the conversation inside my head, it became another hamster with a paddle on a wheel, and it would just spin faster because there were two of them spinning. But if I would get a pen and paper and have the conversation with myself on paper, the hamsters were fired and they were sent back to the pet market, and that wheel just sits there empty. But I would actually be able to discover and uncover what was really going on. And I would be able to say to myself, and yes, I do say this to myself, of course, that's what you're feeling. Why wouldn't you?
Right. And then what do you say to yourself?
Then I say, well, of course I would feel this way because this is what was going on. This is what I'm feeling right now. And, this is what we can do to move forward. Okay, so this is a story that I'm telling myself in the moment. But, we don't really know what's going to happen because we don't have a crystal ball. So let's just practice for a moment what we want to do, what we want to see, and what we want the outcome to be. And I would write down what I wanted the outcome to be, so that I would feel as if I had some degree of control. Because one of the things that I recognize is life is like a play, and actors never go on stage without practicing. So why are we performing on the biggest stage in the world, our life, without practicing in these moments that are setting off this anxiety, so that we feel as if we have some degree of control over the outcome? And it's not that we want control as in two hands on the wheel, gripping it with white knuckles. It's as if we have a plan, we have a path. We know that if this happens, we can take this option. Let's always have some options to move forward, because when we feel that we've got options, that helps calm that anxiety. And then we can take a breath. That's the most important thing. Holy cow. Learning to take a breath.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that, that's excellent. So writing down those thoughts that you're having. So when you're feeling anxious about whatever it may be, it's like taking a moment and going, well, hang on a minute, getting your notebook and actually writing out what you're thinking and what feelings that you're having, and then reframing them.
Mm-hmm.
And giving yourself clear direction about, if we had a magic wand, how you would like to be, to start to get your brain to start to change the pattern and start to reprogram it.
100%, because our brain is very, very powerful, and it can tell us all kinds of stories. But the other thing that I learned is, because so much anxiety is related to an event in the past, our brain doesn't understand, that part of our brain doesn't understand the difference between the past and the present. So everything feels now.
Yes, and that's why you have those same feelings that come up that happened, 25 years ago.
100%. And so understanding that, when you grab that pen and paper and you ask yourself what is really going on, what is really setting this off, then you can start looking at the past, and you can understand, okay, well, of course I'm feeling this way because this is what happened in the past. This was the outcome from the past. Now I'm here in the present. I've got control. I'm in charge. I can make different choices. I can look at it. I can say something different. I can do something different for myself. But also building up a resource of ways to take care of yourself is so important.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
when your anxiety starts escalating, you have a way, and with your tips and tricks, there is a way. If you've got those set aside close at hand, so that you can do something, take some kind of action, then that anxiety is going to start calming. And as you feel anxious in different situations, you're going to say, hold on, wait a minute. Last time I felt this way, this is what I did. It worked.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
You start building that muscle. You start building the muscle.
Yeah, absolutely. And building that new neural pathway in your brain.
100%, which is so important. So important.
And it brings me back to that old quote: if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. So now is the time to change. And so by thinking about changing the different patterns, having different tools to be able to, maybe having a list of different tools to be able to, that you've got easily access to remind you what you can do in the specific moment that you feel anxious. Think, well, that worked for me last time, let me do that. And, oh, I haven't tried that, let me try that. So it's having a list of different ways that you can calm yourself, that you can experiment, because of course we're all different.
Right, right. And with, you know, with the information that you provide to people, you're giving tested tips and techniques. Tested. I mean, these are not just some that you sat down one night and you said, oh, this sounds like a really good idea. I mean, these are tested, and a lot of them have been tested by you, so you know you're living proof that they do work. But as you said, you know, not everything's going to work for everybody. But I was laughing to myself the other day because I was trying to hammer a nail into a wall to hang up a picture, and I was laughing about how many times I used a shoe, a high-heeled shoe, to bang
High-heeled.
a high-heeled shoe,
You got good
because that
eyesight.
was the only hard surface shoe that I had, you know, a high-heeled shoe, you know, to try and hammer that nail into the wall. And how many times did I use a table knife as a screwdriver? Well, did they work? Yeah, sort of, kind of. Did I mess up a few heels? Yeah, I did. Did I bend a few knives? Yes. But you know, when we have proven tips and techniques like a hammer and a screwdriver, which are far, far, far more effective than a high-heeled shoe and a table knife, then we can, you know, we can calm that anxiety a whole lot faster
Yeah. And
than
using it correctly
struggling, right, than struggling, you know, with a makeshift tool.
with your high heels.
And like I said, I ruined, you know, several pairs because you missed.
Especially if you still got them on. It'd be quite difficult. Oh, wow, that's fantastic. And so after you've written down what works for you, well, with your thoughts, and kind of unraveled them, and then moved forward, and then written down good positive phrases that you can repeat to yourself, is that when you use the breathing? When do you use, you know, taking a nice deep breath in?
When I feel it's starting to try and rise again, I'll
Right.
take a nice deep breath.
Yes.
Because what I found when I'm focusing on taking that nice deep breath, it's almost like putting your car in neutral.
Yeah.
It's not going anywhere. The engine is still functioning, but it's not going anywhere. And it gives me that moment just to relax my brain, and then I can move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's all about, because I'm sure that many people have heard about, oh yes, you must take a nice deep breath, but it depends how you do that. And there's a specific way that you need to take and use your breath so it works correctly to calm you. And the way to do that is by taking a short breath in for the count of 4, and then holding it for as long as you can up to the count of 8, and then breathing out very slowly for the count of 8 again. So it's 4, 8, 8. And by breathing this way, you're accessing that part of your brain, that part of your body that then will allow you to calm yourself. So you've got your sympathetic nervous system and your parasympathetic nervous system. So we have these two systems that run throughout our body, and the sympathetic nervous system is connected to the anxious state, and the parasympathetic is connected to the calm, normal you. So by breathing in only for 4, you're accessing that anxious state, that sympathetic nervous system state. But then by breathing out for 8, you're accessing that calm nervous system. So therefore, you will feel so much calmer, but it's making sure that you do that breath correctly. So in for 4, holding it for as 8 or as long as you can, and then out for 8. And another way, as you do that, to be able to access the parasympathetic, the calm, normal state, is by breathing all the way in for the count of 4, but right down to the base of your tummy. And by accessing that area, you're also accessing the parasympathetic as well, that calm state. So you breathe in for 4, so quite quickly, but all the way down to the bottom of your tummy, holding it for 8, and then very slowly breathing out, making sure you get all the breath out right down into your tummy. So breathing it all away and letting it go. And of course, there's lots of other things that you could do there as you exhale, because you could say to yourself something like, let it go, or anything that would calm yourself. So it's important to know how to do your breathing correctly and most beneficially to be able to calm you instantly.
And I will be modifying my breathing to follow that formula.
Yes, because it does work.
Yeah, I can see where it would work. I can see where it would really be very, very beneficial.
Yeah. So it's all to do with your nervous system and accessing that calm part of you.
And it's all about the difference between using that high-heeled shoe and table knife or a hammer and a screwdriver, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. That's brilliant. Well, now, we've covered a lot here, Leslie, haven't we? So tell me, if people wanted to access, come and find you, to find out more about you, where could they go?
Well, the best place to find me is on my website, which is youcan'teatlove.com. And you can read all about me, find out information about all my books. And if you want to reach out to me, you can also reach out to me through the contact me. And I do respond. I've had people say, oh, you're a real person. You're not a virtual assistant, or no, it's really me. So I would love to hear from you.
Absolutely. And I think, people that have anxiety, and that's all connected to reaching out for food when you're not hungry for it, and finding out from Leslie more about how, what she did, how she changed, and it's all in your book. You can't
100%. Yeah, 100%.
That you can find on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's learning from other people about how you've done it to be able to, learn from somebody that knows.
Right. And I'm willing to listen and willing to help people figure it out.
Oh, thank you, Leslie. And thank you so much for joining us. It's been such an insightful pleasure to have you on.
Well, thank you, Kate. I always enjoy talking with you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you to everybody for listening. It's great to have you here. And so before we go, make sure that you subscribe to the podcast on Apple iTunes so you never miss an episode, so you can learn other ways to be able to calm your anxiety. And also, you could always leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Stitcher or Castbox or wherever you may listen. And if you haven't already heard about it, although you probably listened to the beginning of the podcast, check out my book, Anxiety Hacks, on Amazon. That's great. Thank you to everybody. And I look forward to speaking with you in the next episode.